folks, welcome to Uncommon Sense in Current Times. I'm with John Richardson, who is done a lot of research and understanding on the problems that we're facing in our world today, medically, but also in particular, specifically concerning cancer. He is following into using the work of his father and a lot of the research that he had done. And so, John, just welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's great to be here. It's great that we got set up by our mutual friend CJ, and it's great that we get to talk about my father and G. Edward Griffin and cancer and Laetrile and all these great subjects that we're going to get to talk about today. I'm excited.
All right. Tell me about your father, because obviously my understanding, I've just done a little bit of research on him, but my understanding is that he didn't necessarily go upstream or go downstream with everybody else. He seemed to look at problems a little bit differently and decided to take a different approach in handling what traditional medicine was back in was it the 70s? Is that correct?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
my dad graduated from the University of Rochester Medical School, did his undergrad in a New York hospital, married Jean Bassett. I always mess that up. So he did his residency in New York, and then he moved to California and started practicing there. He was just an orthodox doctor. He was an ear, nose, and throat specialist and treated cancer with chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Do you remember those terms? Have you ever heard of those things? They've been doing for the last 60 years with less success as the years go by. He was the same thing because all he ever knew was pharmaceutical drugs and surgery and things like that. And he had to find out. He got about a week's education on nutrition, so he had to find out everything he knew on his own out in the real world.
So you said he was an ear, nose, and throat specialist. You know, nowadays, if I find out that I have cancer and I don't go to an ear, nose, throat specialist. I wouldn't even that wouldn't even be in my mind. So how did he move from that to like saying, "Wow, this cancer thing I need to look at," and what they're doing is not necessarily correct?
Yeah, well, it started in 1970, 71. I should get the exact date, but our family cat, our beloved cat, came down with cancer. And dad took the cat in to the veterinarian, and they prescribed chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery for the cat to the tune of $2,000, which in 1970
Yeah.
dollars, that's a whole lot of money. And my dad thought, what's the success rate of this? You know, if I do all this for our cat, they said, well, about 5%. You know, we could probably extend his life for about 6 months. And so at the time, my dad had a contemporary in the San Francisco Bay Area, that just so happened, named Ernst Krebs Jr., who had found amygdalin through his father. His father had purified it back in the early 1920s, believe it or not, and had used it to treat his cancer patients in the 1920s. And Ernst Krebs Jr., he had known it as amygdalin. Amygdalin's found in 1,200 different foods,
Oh
and
wow.
purified, it's called Laetrile. And we can talk about those foods if you want to talk about them, but purified is called Laetrile. So dad found out about it through Ernst Krebs Jr. and said, why don't I try it on our family cat? So he snuck Laetrile into the cat's wet food and fed the cat Laetrile. And miraculously, the cat's tumor disappeared and the cat got well and lived a long, 7-year life after that, being the family pet. So immediately my dad thought, if this works in cats, it must work in humans. So as it would happen, his lead nurse, Charlotte Anderson, had a sister that was sent home to die of stage 4 cancer. She had cancer in her arm, and they wanted to remove her arm, completely remove her arm. And they said, this is what we can do. And she volunteered after hearing this news to be the first test case for my dad's practice. And he knew at the time, doing his research, that Laetrile was not considered, kosher. It was considered quackery even then. When he did his little research, it was still on the FDA's GRAS list, the generally regarded as safe list. Even then, it was considered safe but ineffective. So he tried it on the nurse, and she immediately got better. I don't want to use the word cured because that's a horrible word to use, and it's also a way to get, in trouble. he allowed her immune system to fight off the schmancer, as we use on YouTube or TikTok or anywhere else we put the word out there. She got better, and years later, she got better and lived, years after that. Years later, he saw her at a wedding, and they both held hands with the hand that she was supposed to have removed. And my dad, that was another pivotal moment during this tribulation he went through. He had no idea what he was going to be putting himself and his family through by treating that first patient. And then overnight, he became a household name in the Bay Area. He became kind of a folk hero because he was treating people naturally, and they were surviving and thriving. And he usually got only the worst cases, the people who were sent home with no hope because of chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. Almost never works. I know that's sacrilegious to say, but all those things are money-making machines. And then when they finally get to the point where they even say, hey, we have nothing more to do for you, that's the time that my dad would get most of them. And he had 6,000 case histories over the next 7 years before they ripped away his license and destroyed his practice. And he wrote a book that came out in 1977. Let me back up a little bit, because prior to that, he went on a fishing trip with his good friend, G. Edward Griffin, who was, a political, he was a researcher and talked about communism and all these things back in the late 60s and 70s. They were together on a board of a conservative organization called the John Birch Society. That's how they knew each other, but they became friends. And so my dad told him about the subject of Laetrile, and the researcher that he is, he later wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, but the researcher that he wrote a book called World Without Cancer. It's back here on the bookshelf back here. And that book is 50 years old and sells more copies now in a week than it used to sell in a year. But it's all about the science of Laetrile and B17 and apricot seeds presented to Ed from my father. And then the whole second half of the book is about the politics of why you don't know about it. None of your family that's ever gotten cancer knows about it. And the whole world doesn't know about it, even though it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. As far as I'm concerned, as far as thousands upon thousands of other people are concerned, it's been proven. So that's how it started. And then in 1972, in June of 1972, the California FDA busted into my dad's medical practice, arrested him, took all of his patient records, all of his documents, even went to the trunk of his car where he kept his most prized studies and documents, and pried open his trunk of his car and stole his briefcase of files. And like I said, put him in jail overnight. He didn't spend more than a night in jail. He was bailed out. And that began the road to both getting the word out there and then the absolute demonization and probably murder of a lot of people that were leading this charge in the 70s to make it to now. When someone hears the word apricot seeds or B17 or Laetrile, the first thing they think about is cyanide poisoning.
Okay. I want to get to the cyanide poisoning. I want to get to that because that's there. But when I listen to the fact that this is 1972, this isn't 2000 where they arrest everybody. In 72, they busted and they arrested him. On what charges were they arresting him on? Because, well, first of all, I didn't know the FDA had that power.
We didn't know it either. At the time. Does this sound familiar? They had a news crew show up at the same time they were raiding my dad's office in 1972.
Well,
back then, that was unheard of. What a coincidence! A news crew from the Bay Area and newspaper article writers. It was a coincidence, but that sounds normal now. Roger Stone's famous for saying he got arrested by FBI in the middle of the night with his wife had cancer. And by the way, he used Laetrile with her cancer. But anyway, that's the sidelight. He tells the story of CNN was there. How does CNN show up at an FBI raid for a poor guy that's defenseless, doesn't have a weapon in his home? Anyway, that happened to my dad in 1972. And that began this. That was the bad news for Dad. The good news is that kicked off an organization called the International Association of Cancer Victims and Friends, that at its height in 1977 had 1 million members and 20,000 chapters across the United States, all with the idea of making it a freedom of choice to choose Laetrile or any other natural treatment for cancer back in 1977. And we can talk about that. Just a side note, we can talk about what they did to tear that whole thing apart, what the powers that be did to tear that whole thing apart. And I'm happy to tell you about that as well.
Well, just for the people that are listening, just to kind of place the emphasis, and I kind of joke about that being a coincidence, because yeah, when you look at the Kennedy assassination in 1963, I mean, there was a big parade, basically, all the people that were around, et cetera, and there was not one news crew that showed up in 1963 for the Kennedy assassination. ABC, NBC, CBS. I mean, and we didn't have like the 3,000 media channels and all the YouTubers and all that other stuff. We didn't have any of that. But nevertheless, as big as that was, there was not one local news group that showed up for that. And yet they're going to show up for a ear, nose, and throat doctor who is treating cancer. And how was it?
Successfully,
Yes,
successfully helping
successfully.
people.
Yes, using the arm of the FDA. I mean,
Well,
it's surreal.
the inside story. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
The
no, it's
inside
just
story of that
surreal.
is that they were searching for patients, disgruntled patients. Remember, most of the people that came to my father were already had one foot in the grave, right?
Right.
They already were using it as their last choice. They weren't coming to his first choice because they didn't even know about him. He'd come to his last choice, and they were searching for people that would go after my dad, sue him, say he was a quack, do that, and they couldn't. After 5 years of trying, he was national news and famous. 5 years of trying and offering thousands of dollars to people to do it. They couldn't get anybody to do it. They sued him 4 times, including federally in San Diego for smuggling Laetrile, which was, by the way, a substance found in your food at the grocery store. How do you smuggle something that's found at this grocery store? You can go and get lima beans, and it's in lima beans or millet or barley, 1,200 different foods. So yes, the chances that the news crew showed up randomly at my dad's office on a June Friday or whatever day of the week it was, it's beyond. It's ridiculous to think it was a coincidence. They pre-planned it, which is absolutely supposed to be illegal. That you're supposed to not let the news organizations know that you're going to arrest somebody, because then you've taken away their presumption of innocence. Because anybody you see is going to say, well, I saw that guy got arrested on TV. He must have been doing something wrong. Why does somebody get arrested live on TV?
Yeah,
Well,
especially in the early 70s.
Yeah, he got arrested for California anti-quackery law, not because he murdered anybody.
Is that really the name of it?
That was what it was called. It was called the
goodness.
anti-quackery law.
So,
and the history of it is long and interesting, and more. It takes more time than our little hour conversation here, but that's what it was. That's what they arrested him for originally.
All right. So I in looking at this and looking at this information and researching, about Laetrile and all of that. One of the places I got to was the Cancer Research Center in the United Kingdom, and there is one of the things it says in its summary is Laetrile is a man-made form of amygdalin, which is a plant substance found in some nuts, plants, and seeds of fruit. So you're saying that Laetrile is naturally occurring. This is saying it's a man-made form of amygdalin. Is there a distinction between the two? Is there how does that all work out?
Yeah, it's a lot of. Well, let me answer that question. Laetrile is basically, let's just put it this way, it's basically today it's the trademark for purified amygdalin. I don't know, ivermectin is probably the trademark for whatever form it is. It's probably a natural substance. I'm not a biochemist or a scientist, but ivermectin is the trademark name. What the underlying mechanism is, I don't know for the ivermectin, but that's the trademark everybody knows. Right. So Laetrile is a trademark for purified amygdalin. But if we make it real simple, to call it synthetic or made up, Krebs was trying to do that in the 70s, but I don't think he was ever successful in patenting it. I know he wasn't. So it's basically left to being a trademark now. And it's just the easier word because most of the 70s articles and newspapers and everything talked about Laetrile as this drug. It's just purified vitamin C. I mean, it's not vitamin C.
Right,
Don't get
right.
me wrong. Just like a capsule of vitamin C is purified. In an orange, it's vitamin C, but it's got pulp, and you got the other intrinsic nutritional things in the orange. But they discovered when they got it down to it that the vitamin C is what prevents you from ever getting scurvy and can cure you of scurvy as long as you don't you've not gone too far. Because scurvy, when it got to the worst case, people were like crumpled around and they were near death. They tried to put vitamin C, it's too late. And it's much the same with B17. It's much better as a preventative to have it in your diet long before you get the C word than it is, necessarily a treatment, although doctors have used it successfully, but we don't promote it that way. So to answer that question specifically, Laetrile is the trademark, the name of purified amygdalin. It's not synthetic. There's nobody making it in a lab. It's just purified.
So to your point, and instead of me eating a lime, I take a vitamin C pill. And so this is so yeah, technically the vitamin C pill is man-made. I
Yep.
guess arguably if you use the same thing here. Now, the second claim, the second summary in this is that Laetrile or amygdalin can treat cancer are not backed up by research. Now, I'm going to
Well,
assume you
that's,
have some research somewhere in there that tells me that it can treat cancer.
yeah, so much research. There's two answers to that question.
Okay.
There is so much research that I've now discovered in the last 60 days.
Oh
You
well.
would think I would have known this for my whole life, but
Yeah.
I've always known it worked. I always known why it worked, but I also always assumed, no, I didn't assume. I always understood that there wasn't proper research, and there still isn't proper research, but it wasn't proper research because there's no money. It costs millions of dollars to get a drug approved by the FDA, and then you get a patent, and then you make billions, even though you kill people. That's how the system works, and I don't want to mention a specific drug company so they don't send someone knocking on my door, but we know that's how the system works. You create a drug, you patent it, and then you make billions off that drug, or you kill enough people and they take it off the market. So it's a risk reward thing, or you get special voting power in the Congress and they say you can never be sued. So the fact that they say there's no studies to back it up, there's so many studies, it's almost Peter, it's almost ridiculous. Now I have there's studies of whether toxicology studies on rats and sheep and dogs to prove that it's less toxic than sugar. Sugar is toxic.
Oh,
Sugar's
it's awful.
poisonous for you, but they sell it all over the place. I can eat 40 apricot seeds a day, and I have thousands of people that buy apricot seeds over the last 30 years, thousands that regularly eat 10, 20, 30 apricot seeds a day. No one ever dies of cyanide poisoning. But people do get sick to their stomach when they haven't done it before, if they eat it too fast and too rapidly. So we always recommend people start with 3. But even people on our side think that means that we're cyanide poisoning people a little bit. The cyanide is tightly locked in the amygdalin molecule, much like cyanocobalamin is vitamin 12. Cyano stands for cyanide. Amygdalin has 4 molecules, 2 of sugar, glucose, 1 of cyanide, and 1 of benzaldehyde. That's where it gets scary for people. So they can put your mind off like, oh, squirrel. They can put your mind off on cyanide and make you stay away from apricot seeds and amygdalin when that's exactly where you need to go. That's exactly where you need to go. And the mechanism works like this. Amygdalin in a lab, the FDA tried it in the early 70s when my dad was saying this is how the mechanism works. They tried to break it apart in the lab and put out news things saying it's worthless. We can't get it to break apart the way they say in the lab. So you can take it, but it's harmless and worthless. So don't take amygdalin. Don't postpone chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery and go with Laetrile because it's worthless. It doesn't work. Well, finally, they understood that with the enzyme beta glucosidase, and I challenge your audience to look that up. Beta glucosidase, which is found only in the human body, one place, and I'll tell you that in a second, kind of like a punchline. Hey, come back after this message from your sponsor. Beta glucosidase is found only one place in your body. That breaks apart amygdalin into those 4 molecules I talked about. So you can create a cyanide gas or cyanide in a laboratory that could be considered poisonous. But in the body, it only happens at a cancer cell. Cancer cells have up to 3,000 times more beta-glucosidase than a normal cell or an apricot seed or anywhere else. There's 3,000 times more beta-glucosidase, up to 3,000 times more. And that's why when amygdalin comes along in your body and you have sufficient amount, it hits the beta-glucosidase and breaks apart into cyanide and benzaldehyde. And that's what theoretically and scientifically and proven in studies kills the cancer cell in Petri dishes. Okay. NIH has a study. You can look it up right now. I don't know how it slipped through. It's probably going to get deleted because I keep pointing it out. But it's been proven that amygdalin causes apoptosis in cancer cells. It's on the NIH. Come on, folks. Okay, so now if I ended there, you would go, Peter would say, well, that's risky. If I take this amygdalin on a regular basis, I'm going to get all the cyanide and benzaldehyde running around my body. Right. I might die of cyanide poisoning. But here's the other half of the equation you can't forget. God made rhodinase, which is found in the fruit of apples, apricots, a lot of the fruits that have the seeds that have B17 in them or amygdalin in them, same thing. Rhodinase is found there. So in the human body, where do you think rhodinase is found at the highest concentration? It's never found in a cancer cell. It's found in a healthy cell. And rhodinase is called the protecting enzyme because it breaks down the cyanide and benzaldehyde, and the whole chemical reaction, I could provide it to you or anybody that asks for it, and breaks it down into analgesics, meaning it causes pain relief. So if you're a victim of Schmancer or the C disease, almost 95% of people that did it in my dad's practice got pain relief. Their hair started to grow back. They got their appetite back. Even if they ended up dying of all the chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, they still had the positive effects of getting pain relief. If that alone was all that amygdalin did, we should as humanitarians say, let's make it available to people. But the Gestapo of the 70s said, no, we don't even want to make it available for that, because then people will assume that it's also has other properties that we don't think it has. So we're going to make it illegal for any reason, and we're going to put you in jail. We're going to take away your kids. We're going to not let you do this. So you're going to have to go to Mexico to get it in the 70s, even though my dad was using it. Even after he got arrested, even after he got his license taken away, he was still using his practice to help thousands of people. Up to 6,000 patients my dad treated, like I said, with varying degrees of success, depending on how bad off they were. He was treating people in the 70s and proving that Laetrile was effective in the treatment of, or actually effective as a support for the immune system to help the body fight off the cancer. And that's an important distinction even my dad made back in his practice. So, and there was many other doctors, not just my dad, but there's many others.
So the third thing, and you've addressed this, the third thing that it says is it contains cyanide, a poison, and can cause serious side effects. But when I also hear you say originally they started by saying it does nothing, now they've changed the narrative and says it could kill you. So how on earth are they citing any studies? Are they citing anything to indicate that they have found that there are these type of problems, or are they just drawing conclusions based off of the fact that they have that chemical element within it?
Let's start with the presupposition that they're all honest and trustworthy.
The Demas' family has been in the restaurant business for many generations. We have been serving people in the Middle Tennessee market for 34 years. Try our spaghetti kits, our pot roast, which we slow cook for 4 hours, or our world-famous baked chicken and rice soup, which many locals have dubbed Greek penicillin for when you feel under the weather. We make our food fresh, and upon placing our order with us, we freeze the order and send it to your house. Demas' is more than a business. 5 generations of restaurant operators have taught us many things about food, but more importantly, we have recognized that we don't sell food. We sell the experience of bringing people and families together, which our country desperately needs. So go to DemasFamilyKitchen.com and share in this journey today. And for right now, use the code UNCOMMON to get 10% off of your order. That's DemasFamilyKitchen.com.
The people that we're talking about. Let's just start with that supposition. At Sloan Kettering in 1977, they finally did a study on rats. And they studied the rats that were made. They were birthed to they were changed in their DNA to make cancer tumors, to grow tumors. So these rats were like a line of rats that grew tumors automatically. And Dr. Sugimura, who was very famous, who actually was one of the inventors of chemotherapy, believe it or not, he was studying these rats, injecting with Laetrile, 50% of the rats, and 50% of the rats he was injecting with saline. And he found that 80%, I'm not mixing up my words here, 80% of the rats that were injected with the Laetrile had their coats were as clean, as smooth and nice, and they had their appetites come back, and they had their cancer metastases of those tumors stopped in 80% of the rats. Prove it. He did it 29 times, I think, and we have his handwritten notes. But the powers that be at Sloan Kettering didn't like that answer, those results. They were funded by Big Pharma. So they, at the time, paid for another doctor, paid him $1 million in 1977 to come in and run it one more time. And taking the reputation of this famous Japanese doctor and flushing it down the toilet, this guy came in, ran it one more time, and lo and behold, the rats that were injected with saline had the effect of having their tumors stopped at 80%, and the rats that were injected with Laetrile found nothing. Now, an average person might hear, well, they finally did it after 29 times. They did the right study. But a person like me, a skeptic, would go, are you sure he didn't switch it and he didn't use Laetrile and the saline injector? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Are you sure that guy didn't? So for years, that was what was put out by the media. They had a big event. They announced that Laetrile was proven ineffective, not safe, and maybe even bad for you, but it was just not safe. Don't do it. Right. I mean, they didn't say it was poisonous at that time. They just said it's not effective. We've proven it. So one of the reporters at this famous event said to the Dr. Sugimura, Dr. Sugimura, they've come out with this final study and saying that Laetrile is ineffective. Do you stick with your findings that Laetrile was effective in the suppression of tumors in rats? And he famously said, I stick. And he went later, separated from Sloan Kettering, and did all that. And all of this probably could have worked great, except Dr. Ralph Moss, who was there at the time, who saw all this going on and was sickened by it, started an underground newspaper called Second Opinion. And he and a bunch of other staff at Sloan Kettering were putting out reports about what Laetrile was doing and getting it out to pro-Laetrile people, letting them know about this. And about 10 years ago, he actually made a documentary called Second Opinion, where Dr. Ralph Moss was a whistleblower proving that Sloan Kettering lied about and covered up the results they had in these rat studies. Absolutely ensuring that no one would ever run a human study because they came out and said it was ineffective. So that video was put onto YouTube. It was blackballed. It was hidden away and finally deleted. And we now have it on our website. You can get it, watch it for free with the permission of the producer, and watch this video. It's mind changing. And the final thing that Ralph Moss says in that documentary, which is very well made, you will applaud to. Let me just tell your audience that. And I can tell people how to get to that video for free. I spoke to Ralph Moss's son, and he wanted me to make it clear. So anybody that's watching this later, he wanted to make it a bit clear that his dad never said that Laetrile was effective in the treatment of C in humans. He just said, we need to do that study. We need to make sure that study happens because it was effective in rats, and we've never done that study. So no studies ever been done by anybody accredited, if any large thing, that proves that Laetrile is effective in the treatment of schmancer in humans, because they won't allow it. People have tried multiple times and actually gotten studies through by renaming Laetrile to something else and proven it. And lots of retrospective studies have been done, more like statistical studies on societies that have high concentrations of amygdalin and Laetrile in their diet, to showing their cancer rates are far below anybody else. So there's all sorts of studies like that that have been done. But the official one done by, an official government agency, either is never going to be done, or it hasn't been done, and we have to fund it through Operation War Without Cancer to get it done once and for all. So that's my long-winded answer. But I have piles of case histories and studies and doctors' notes from their practices and things like that far make it at least harmless and relieving pain, and also may have an effect on people and the case studies to back it up.
All right. So, if I got diagnosed with cancer tomorrow, I would be, I would be desperate, trying to do whatever it is to take. What is the incentive, or is there an incentive to, start with Laetrile, apricot seed? Well, first of all, you keep referencing apricot seeds. I know a little bit about it, but we really didn't get into it. Is apricot seeds the same as Laetrile? Is that a,
No,
all right.
it's more like this. Let's say 1,200 different foods have amygdalin in them. Okay,
Okay.
the seed on the side of strawberries has a very tiny amount of amygdalin, not enough to do anything appreciable. Apple seeds have about 1 milligram inside that little apple seed. And it's also what creates the idea that, oh, don't eat the apple seed, that's cyanide poisoning. False. But anyway, apple seeds. Then peach
Okay.
seeds have about 5 milligrams of amygdalin in the peach seed. Apricot seeds, California grown apricot seeds, is what we specialize in getting to people, have 20 milligrams of amygdalin in each one of them. So that kind of graduates up. Lima beans might have 0.02 milligrams of amygdalin. All the 1,200 foods have varying amounts of amygdalin in it, but apricot seeds happen to have the most. So that's why we talk about apricot seeds. It's not the apricot seed intrinsically that has anything great about it, except that it has 20 milligrams of amygdalin in it. And it also has just the way apricots are grown. They have a very hard pit. There's the fruit covering is small. Peach seeds also have amygdalin in it. So that's what it is. So if you purify one time, you do an alcohol extraction on an apricot seed, you can produce 17% amygdalin the first time. Then you have to purify it again, and you get like 98.6% pure. The rest is cellulose or whatever's in the seed. So that's how Laetrile is made, by purifying apricot seeds. They also use peach seeds and other things, but that's the technology. That's the thing behind it. It's basically the same as an orange and vitamin C. You need a lot of oranges to make or a lot of rose hips, or wherever else you get your vitamin C. There's to make that 500 milligram capsule of vitamin C. It's approximately 25 apricot seeds purified makes a 500 milligram capsule of Laetrile.
Okay. So now going back to where I was going before I got sidetracked, taking apricot seeds, taking Laetrile, or anything of that nature when I don't have cancer, is there benefits to me there?
Well, yes, because number one, there's a psychology. I should probably start out by saying I'm going to tell you something that no one's going to believe. And
Okay.
30 minutes after this talk we have, you're going to question my sanity. Cancer is a deficiency disease. If you have the proper nutrition, you have the proper intrinsic things and enzymes in your body, you'll never get cancer.
Okay.
G. Griffin is 93. He wrote the book War Without Cancer. And if anybody trusts his research and his ability, he'll tell you today. I spoke to him and his wife yesterday, correcting an order that they had ordered from me. They still take Laetrile to this day. They're both in their early 90s. Ed's 93. And he will tell you he doesn't know anybody in his life that regularly has taken nitrosides that's ever died of cancer. Let that soak in.
Okay.
Understand that it's not a silver bullet once you get it, once you jump off the bridge, not a cure for the cancer, just like water is not a cure for thirst. If you don't drink water tomorrow, the next day, you're going to get thirst come back. But like vitamin C and scurvy, if you don't have vitamin C, you're going to die of scurvy.
Right.
Same thing we believe, and all the science points to it, that cancer is not something you catch. It's not a virus. It's not a parasite. Although any doctor that heard that, now I'm going to have people attacking me saying, yes, every cancer patient has parasites. I believe that's true, because we all have parasites. You have parasites,
Right.
I have
Right.
parasites. And if you don't have the proper immune system to fight off the schmancer, then the parasites attack as well. So now you've got to kill the parasites along with bringing up your your immune system. And now you can effectively help your body get rid of the schmancer.
Okay.
And so again, at the conference I was just at, people go, well, wait a minute. Well, so what are you saying? I'm saying that if you eat the right things and have the right nutritional supplements, you'll never get the schmancer.
Okay. I want to challenge that a little bit. by asking this question because um, you've obviously heard of people who are kind of like in environmental areas, the cluster, whether it's chemicals that got into the drinking water or the electrical towers nearby, whatever it happens to be. There are people who smoke that get lung cancer. Obviously, there's increase of that. It's hard for me to see cancer as a deficiency when I see these other things that because to me that would have to argue that chemicals in drinking water create the deficiency of B17 or something of that nature. Having the electrical lines overhead, the cell phone, the cell phone radiation, that type of stuff. What where help me understand that because that to me
Absolutely.
seems and that's where I run into the problem with what you said.
I
So I don't
completely
think you're crazy 30 minutes after it's like right now. No, I'm
I love it, Peter. Peter, I love being challenged because that's the only way that I can help change minds. I'm absolutely not saying that smoking is good for you. I'm
right.
absolutely not saying that sitting under towers with 5G blaring down on you is good for you. It's healthy for you. What I'm telling you is that the people that drop dead from smoking, there's just as many people who have grandparents that smoked their whole lives and they're 95, 98, and they've survived.
Yeah, I did.
And
Yeah.
the actual truth is that if you have the proper nutrition, all those other things have a far less effect on lowering your immune system. It makes you bulletproof. And as an example, I'm a person that eats 40 apricot seeds a day. I don't ever get sick. My kids have never been vaccinated with the newest science that people do. I have 11 children. They all are take apricot seeds and amygdalin. They never get sick. And if they do, they get a little cold. We have a natural remedy for those people that allows the immune system, those people, my kids, the natural immune system that allows their body to come back. So it's sacrilegious to say we don't take our kids to the hospital. I'm not a hairy armpit, granola guy. I'm more of a, if you see me, you're going to think, oh yeah, he believes in modern medicine. And I do if I get in a car accident. But if I have something I believe that's a immune deficiency related disease, which I think nearly 100% of disease is related to a deficiency of some nutritional stuff. I hear it every day. So I'll go back to this. If your immune system is bulletproof, you can weather the storm. People always say to me, it's funny at my work, oh, such and such has a cold, John, you better stay away from him. I said, I'm not, doesn't matter. Bring them in. I don't care. I'm not going to get sick. I want my immune system to be challenged with whatever they have, and I don't get sick. And that seems pompous. And I've had people go, oh, I hope he dies of the COVID. I remember doing videos and you go, oh, I hope he dies of the COVID. I didn't wear a mask, and everywhere I went, people would be, oh, why isn't he wearing? He's going to die. Oh, you're killing people. No, I'm trying to tell people that if your immune system's strong enough, you can battle anything. And the healthier someone is, the better the immune system, the better they are at avoiding the diseases. So again, I don't think those things you mentioned are good for you, or that, hey, start smoking tomorrow. It'll help you with your schmancer. I'm saying that if your immune system has the proper nutrition, it's been proven. It's not just me saying it. It's been proven that you can weather almost any storm. And G.R. Griffin, of anybody, has been attacked, literally been poisoned, and he's still alive at 93. I was with him when he was near death after being poisoned, and he brought himself all the way back with nutrition and health, and he's 93. That's just one example, I know, but there's many, many more examples of that. Doesn't mean you can't get hit by a bus and be killed
Right.
just if you have a great immune system, or you can't be irradiated to death. If you're hit with x-rays every day and you have a great immune system, it's likely that it's going to go against what I say about having the proper nutrition. So there is cases that you could also prove that, John, that person died of cancer, even though they were super healthy. But I would point to they probably didn't have enough B17 in their diet. And I could almost every time find the reason that that's the case.
Well, I'm shocked that Laetrile will not save you from getting hit by a bus. I figured.
Yeah, if I said that, then again, I'd be crazy. Yes, it puts this veil of protection around you, and you have wings that go out your back, and your superhero strength. Yeah, it's
No,
not a
but
silver bullet, folks. Don't let anybody think, and I don't have the trademark for it in the patent. And here's the greatest thing: is I don't really care if people buy it from me. get it from somebody. My brother has a company that sells it. He doesn't tell the story behind it, but my brother will probably end up watching this. Apricotpower.com. You can buy the same thing, amygdalin, on that website too. That's my brother's website, and he sells it, but he keeps a much lower profile approach, and he'll tell you I'm the brother that's crazy that tells the story of why it works because people want to know.
Right.
So that's what I do at my company. I tell my dad's story, Gio Griffin's story, and I give people all the data in spite of the warnings from people that, hey, you're going to be a target if you tell people the truth, and give them the data to back it up. And that's what I do.
So you know, I anecdotally, I have someone I know who was, she ran a vegan restaurant here locally, and I'm I like meat too much. Like I can't do it. And I was refusing to go, even though everyone was like, man, you got to try it. It's the best burgers ever. And finally I broke down. I went and tried it, and it was out of this world amazing. She did an incredible job. But I was able to talk to her about her story, and same thing. She had cancer. She was given weeks left to live. I don't know. I never heard of Laetrile. She didn't mention that, apricot seeds or whatever. All she did was talked about how what she did was she focused on changing her diet. She changed everything with it. And, you know, and 6 weeks lasted for years. Her cancer is no longer in her body. I mean, you know, she appeared healthy based off of, you know, our conversation and the times I've interacted with her, et cetera. And she would always have, you know, like brochures telling her story and things of that like. So I recognize that there is that. And I also recognize that so much of the chemicals and everything that are put into our foods today, that there is not, to me, it's not a coincidence that you put these items in and cancer rates are increasing, that you increase vaccines, cancer rates increase. There's just the it's not coincidental on it. I mean, there's just too much. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a medical person. But I can look at facts and say, okay, at least it leads me to certain conclusions that I hadn't been able to do it. So again, when I look at these things here, are these things are they are, would you contend that those things helps decrease the immune system, decrease this, or would you contend that these things are causing more cancer causing agents, and because we just naturally have less immune system due to other things external, or because of our diet, because of the sugar you mentioned, because of that type of stuff, that we can't beat off the things they're putting into our food? Like we're this like a chicken or egg, I guess, is kind of the question I'm
Well,
asking. What do
yeah,
you think?
I would say 100%. You're absolutely right. Everything you just said is 100% true. And people that on a vegan diet and natural diet and do certain things have a higher chance of surviving the schmancer. There's a book I sell on my website. I don't know if you can see it up there. It's called Cancer Free with Food. And if I wasn't, it didn't. Anyway, it's by a young lady named Leanna Warner Gray, and she's a good friend of mine, and she's an Australian beauty queen, basically. And she had a huge lump on her neck, and she talks about how she just changed her diet from gummy bears and sugar and things like that, and got into whole foods and foods full of nutrients, and wiped out her cancer. And so she gave a talk at a conference like 7 or 8 years ago. And I walked up to her afterwards and I said, hey, have you ever heard of apricot seeds in the treatment, you know, of the schmancer? And she said, absolutely. My mom, you know, used them successfully to cure her breast cancer. I said, why don't you talk about it in your talk? And she said, well, if I do, they censor me. They cut me off the radio program. They cut me off any general place. They cut me off. I can't mention it. My book editor won't allow me to put it in there. So after we became friends, we do podcasts together. I regularly sell her book that tells you how to put me out of business. We've discovered that all the food she recommends are high in nitroglycerides, high in amygdalin. And she put a section in her book, amygdalin. So when someone tells me I'm fully supportive of someone going on a vegan diet, but broccoli and spinach has amygdalin in it. So all these things that are being recommended for a natural diet have amygdalin. So great. So I'm not sitting here telling you that you can eat donuts, smoke cigarettes, you know, live under a 5G tower and take, you know, 8 apricot seeds and you're going to be protected. That's not what I'm saying. And I hope everybody hears that. I'm saying as part of the whole metabolic thing.
In Acts 5, we see that when Peter and the other disciples were ordered to stop talking about Jesus, they responded, "We obey God and not man." In 2020, we saw something we never thought we could see in this country. They shut down our churches. After decades of removing God from schools and public institutions, they went straight at our community. Unfortunately, we as Christians did not know what to do, and even worse, we chose to listen to false prophets masquerading as Christians on how to respond. I recognize this is the only beginning, and we need to know how to respond. We have a duty to say no to unjust laws, but as Christians, we have a greater duty to God. In my book, On the Duty of Christian Civil Disobedience, I use biblical teachings to help believers know when and how to stand up to those in charge when they ask us to commit evil. You can go to peterdemas.org to find out about our duty to say no. And when you type in the code UNCOMMON, you can get 10% off your order. That's UNCOMMON at peterdemas.org. Remember, we are to obey God and not man.
Amygdala is a necessary intrinsic thing, not just kind of like as a nebulous thing, but it actually, the science proves it, why it works. So if your pancreatic enzymes aren't high enough and you don't digest the outside of the cancer cell, you can stick all the Laetrile you want into somebody and it won't do anything. It will do zero. So you don't have the proper immune system with your enzymes. Your pancreas is not properly functioning. So that's why my dad said, eat less meat, because the same enzymes, trypsin and chymotrypsin, that help you digest animal proteins are also, weirdly enough, the same enzymes that help you digest the outside of a cancer cell. So it really is scientific. It really does make sense. And it's not just John telling stories and hey, my way or the highway, because I can have a conversation with any doctor and we can come to a common ground. I've been talking to doctors, well, cancer is completely parasites. And I would agree that if you have parasites, you've got to get rid of them, or they've taken tumors out of people, put them out, and they weren't even cancer. They were parasites. But really? I would argue with you, Peter, and any doctor, that if you had the proper nutrition, those parasites would have never been able to take over in the first place. So it is a chicken and an egg thing. Just don't wait till you have the schmancer. Don't wait till you've jumped off the bridge so you get a parachute. Start doing it now. And so if Ed Griffin and my father and thousands of other doctors said, if you ate 100 to 200 milligrams of Laetrile per day and had an otherwise well-rounded diet, you could eat a chocolate cake here or drink a glass of champagne there and live your life like that and never die of cancer. Why don't we just try it? Why don't we see if I'm right or wrong? Just like they found out finally, if the sailors would just suck on an orange on the ships in 300 years ago, or suck on a lime, be called limeys, they could avoid dying of scurvy. So they found that out, and they didn't wait till they were dying of scurvy to start sucking on limes. They started sucking on them before they ever got it. So I'm hoping that within the next 10 years, cancer goes the way of scurvy, and kids have to raise their hand and go, "What's cancer?" in class, because we take this lesson and put me out of business and put other people, and that B17's found at your local grocery store, or we're eating more foods with it in it. We're putting it back in our diet when they've taken it out. Demonize doctors, demonize health practitioners that are telling people to take it, and stop it, and just let us live a happy, healthy life with nutrition.
Okay, so I want to kind of jump a little bit, because there has been anecdotally, I've heard the phrase, and that has been tied and connected to the COVID vaccine, to anti-vaxxers, called turbo cancer. When I started researching it, and I was researching it to challenge a doctor who I had on my show on it, and what was interesting was the cancer rates weren't coming out. They weren't releasing the cancer rates from, after 2021. Like, you couldn't find them. And so then I just started kind of typing in just random search terms, and I kept finding anecdotal evidence everywhere of young people, 25 years old, that had nothing than stage 4 cancer, and then a 20-year-old woman, stage 4 breast cancer. I mean, I'm seeing it everywhere anecdotally, and you combine it all, and it's like, wow, that's an alarming pattern. And then And then now I've run across people that I know, or that that are like a friend of my sister's or someone else like that, who did the exact same thing, stage 4 cancer, weeks later died. And so first of all, I saw you nod, so I'm assuming you've heard of
Yeah,
this theory
absolutely.
before.
Yep.
Um, that seems to be tied with this. This seems to be a little bit different than your traditional type of cancer because of the age, because of the speed at which it occurs. Do you think that is also dealing with a deficiency, or do you think that's something else that they're just reclassifying or redefining as cancer?
Well, both. I think turbo cancer is a term they came up with to cover up what's going on. They're acting like it's things that are happening in our atmosphere, or here's recommendations of what to do to avoid turbo. Um, I believe it's one psyop to get us to take an mRNA vaccine to prevent cancer. The King of England came out with that he has cancer, and then Meghan Markle, she's got cancer. The King of England, everybody knows he won't do chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. He's going to go natural. He knows about Laetrile. We'll see what happens with that psyop. But I don't want to miss your question. It is still the same disease that people are getting. It's just their immune system is being, that's the key thing, that if you go to anybody that's talking about these vaccines, that they knock out your immune system. They knock out the immune system. So the cancer that you and I both have floating around in our body right now, as long with everybody else out there, has every day the potential of cancer. If you have the proper immune system, you can fight it off. If you have been injected with the vaccine, you don't have the proper immune system anymore, but you can still fight it off. There's many success stories of people that are doing it. Again, it's hard for me to say, well, no, those vaccines aren't causing the cancer. Well, yes, they are, because they're decreasing the immune system. So they really are a cause. But if someone has the proper immune system, they can still fight it off. And I haven't seen a study on it. This is happening live, real time right now. CNN, who I trust implicitly, don't you? No, I'm kidding, everybody. I'm joking. CNN 3 days ago came out, and a headline said 78% increase in cancer rates among those under 50. When I was young, no one had to ever worry about the schmancer until you were
Right.
over 50 and your immune system was depleted and your immune system was low. So, it fit right in. But now the immune system is being knocked out in 25-year-olds. I bumped into a mother of three, healthy as all else this weekend, and she got the schmancer. Well, without talking to me before that, her naturopath got her to start taking Laetrile 3 grams in an injection once a week. And she was eating 10 apricot seeds a day. And all I told her was, you're doing great, but just up it. Because Krebs said, if you're trying to battle something, get the level of Laetrile. Krebs was the gentleman my dad was friends with in the 70s. Get it up as high as you can without making yourself sick to your stomach. So yes, these are all, Peter, and it probably does. I love your questions, by the way. I love being challenged. That's the most important thing I want people to know. There's no question that's too hard for me, because I love that kind of thinking. But it's just a situation where you got to look at it and see who's dying of these things, because the healthy immune system people that have all the intrinsic things needed to fight off the schmancer aren't getting turbo cancer. They're not getting it. But there's no studies being done on that, because they don't want us to know that. They just want us to go, okay, line up for our mRNA cancer vaccine. That is so ridiculous. It's almost beyond belief that people believe that you could take a shot that would stop a deficiency disease. Would anybody line up for a scurvy preventing mRNA vaccine? Would they? I think they would in this day and age. If they came out with it and said, scurvy's on the rise, scurvy's being left and right because we're not eating the proper, let's get a vaccine to prevent us. It's uncommon. It's really beyond belief that people believe it. But I guess there's a whole segment of society that trusts medicine, trust these pharmaceuticals, and know that they have our best interest at heart. But when I'm talking to people that work for the companies now and people that are watching it happen, another guy's wife died of breast cancer, and he just watched this mill of financial revenue going through from all these people coming in with breast cancer and then dying after doing the normal therapy. And it's just hopeless. It's hopeless. That avenue, that truth is not what's going to save us. It's nutrition, it's prevention, we have the answer for 50 years and they're covering it up. So education is an important thing too, so that you don't have the fear when you're diagnosed. You realize, oh, this is what this is. I know how to fix this, because people are having 100% success rates, Peter. And if all these things that caused the schmancer were undefeatable, they wouldn't be having these success rates when they know what to do.
And even, even if the numbers were even as low as 60%, you tell me I have cancer, I'm excited about 60%, based off of that. I'm excited about a 40% chance of recovery. So to me, it makes sense to me at all. Now, we're getting kind of close to the end. I want to ask you, because we talked to, and we've kind of insinuated about it. We talked about sugar. I've seen the dangers of sugar even within my own body. I'm a sugar addict, and people don't think it's a real addiction. It really is. And when I eat sugar, I fall off the wagon, and I go bad with it. And it's interesting because I'll feel my arthritis when I'm eating sugar. I don't sleep as good. I don't have the same desire with energy, exercise, etc. And I'm not even talking about just straight white sugar either. I'm talking about others as well. But white sugar to me is tremendously worse. What do you think? And you mentioned it, and just kind of briefly, where do you see sugar in relation to people's diets, and kind of give them advice on what needs to happen when it comes to sugar?
Simply put, processed sugar is poison. It is a health epidemic. My wife, who's speaking to the choir, you and her would be best friends. She gets an absolute migraine headache if she eats any sugar. So the only sugar she can eat is certain natural sugars. And she's making sure that our company never offers a product that has refined sugar, only sugar that's healthy for you, that you can eat as a schmancer patient. Cancer loves sugar. It eats sugar. It grows with sugar. So sugar has such horrible effects on the body. And you're absolutely right. So I'm in a total agreement. And I think on my dad's protocol, which we offer free to anybody who goes to the website, my dad's protocol lists sugar, caffeine, and alcohol as the number 1, 2, and 3 to stop if you have the schmancer. Okay.
Well, alcohol is sugar. I mean,
yeah,
in reality,
exactly.
Is alcohol sugar.
The only safe alcohol is properly made tequila, because it's made from
the agave.
What is
no,
it?
Not
agave. Yeah,
it's
the only safe. It's not killing you. Let's put it that way. I'm not, again, Peter. Please, I'm not telling people, hey, get cancer.
I can't drink
tequila.
I can't drink a liter of tequila.
Party. We're gonna. Yeah. So,
we can do shots after this and go driving, and we'll be fine because we have Laetrile.
So people hear what they want to hear. People hear what they want to hear. That Richardson guy is telling people to smoke cigarettes and drink tequila and sit under a 5G tower, and they'll be fine.
You'd been popular in my college growing up.
So I recommend people. I know we have a short time left, but my dad, I don't know if you ever heard of None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen. Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
It was a famous book in the 70s and 80s talking about how how the communists were going to take over America. G. Edward Griffin talks about it. He's gone viral about how basically we're becoming a communist country. But the same author that wrote Non Dare Call a Conspiracy wrote this article about my dad. I just found this six weeks ago. I even found a color copy, and we haven't had the time to make it a color copy, but we offer this as a download on our website. I'd be happy to send it to you. Just send an email to Jan, and we'll send you any kind of PDFs off our website that you want to do, because I want to give you the information you really want. And in an hour, I'm not going to convince you of what I believe, and nor do I really think you should listen to me anyway. I think everybody should take it as a spark to know this guy either crazy or he does know what he's talking about. And either way, if I help you to wake up from the myth that cancer is anything but a deficiency disease, if I help you to wake up from that, and that a tumor is just a symptom, it's not the disease that you need to cut out. We got to get over that. Just like if you got chicken pox, you don't go to the doctor and cut off all the chicken pox. That's just a symptom of the disease. This is powerful information that I want to get to everybody, but this is one of many things. And this just makes me proud because this whole 54-page book is about my dad's trials and tribulations and information that I didn't even know 6 weeks ago. I have a Thursday call with my whole family who have a lot of data, all my brothers and sisters who have gone about their separate ways in life that all lived through this, that we're trying to get this record straight, get the story straight. Cause I mess up. I tell them a wrong fact here or there that I want to get correct. And so we have a Thursday call with my whole family to say, let's bring all this together and get all this information out there because they've scared us to tell people the truth because they're going to take us out. I don't care anymore. I tell people I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees. And that's what I'm trying to do is tell the truth.
So tell me the website for people to go to, and how do they get this information? How do they order products? Everything I'm assuming is in one location.
Yeah, rncstore.com. We have Dr. Richardson's library. You can find, we have an amazing FAQ that speaks nothing about the schmancer word. We have to kind of stay away from that. And we have caveats all over about, we're not promoting anything or, do your own research and all that. But we do have links to the videos on our Rumble channel to watch World Without Cancer that was taken off YouTube, and links on our website. You can buy Second Opinion or you can watch it for free in the description. Absolutely don't care which way. The buying it just supports the producer and helps us be able to print this stuff and get it out there. But there's lots of free information on the website. You can enter your name to get on our mailing list. And every podcast I do, this podcast will send out to our 30,000 email subscribers, and they eat it up. They love hearing new things. They hear it for the first time from me sometimes on a podcast like this. And so we're building this channel of information and growing this web of people that want to tell the truth. And then we're also doing Operation World Without Cancer. You can also go to that website and see a lot of the links to people that are supporting what we do, and we're supporting what they do, and natural answers to the C word.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Well,
rncstore.com.
rncstore.com. All right. Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And again, I agree with you. I concur. If you're crazy, I want people to know it, but the only way you know it is to go research it on your own. Don't just follow memes. Don't do anything. Go and actually do the research and find out, because I know you're onto something on it. I know 100% on it because I've seen enough anecdotal evidence to indicate it. So I do appreciate that, and I agree. I hope we can create a world that'll put you out of business. So thank you so much.
I do too. I really do. Believe it or not.
All right. Well, thanks, you have a good rest of the day. We'll see you.